All right, so the Packers-Patriots preseason game just ended, and it was actually suspended with about 10 minutes left because of an injury to rookie cornerback on the Patriots, Isaiah Bolden. Sort of got hit in the head and fell down and had to be taken off on a stretcher. And so obviously I hope he is okay. And I send him my prayers, and I just pray that he will be all right. A very scary scene for him. And the coaches seem to discuss it and decide that they wanted to end the preseason game, which makes lots of sense. So I hope he is going to be all right. And now I want to sort of discuss my biggest takeaways from this game and give my thoughts on this. I already made a video after halftime about Jordan Love and basically what I thought of his performance. I'll touch on him a little, but if you want to see even more on that, you can check that video out down below. But overall, for Love, I thought it was a solid performance. The first couple drives, the offense seemed a little bit shaky. They started off nicely, a few nice runs. The one snap basically flies by Jordan Love. The Patriots get it. The next series, Love has one nice throw to Dobbs, a couple incompletions where the guys weren't fully open. But still, Love didn't really put it into harm's way. And then that third drive, a beautiful 42-yard pass to Romeo Dobbs, keeps his feet in. A nice 10-yard scramble, and then a nice 19-yard, I think it was 19 yards, something like that, touchdown pass to Jaden Reed. And that was the drive that really got me fired up about Jordan Love. And I think we saw sort of the upside and the potential that Love has. And I think it's definitely a lot to build on, not only for Jordan Love, but also these young pass catchers, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed. I think this is a very, very talented young offense, and we're just starting to see what is possible with these guys. And as they build that chemistry and have more time together, I think we're going to see more and more of what we saw in that third series. So I think what they need to work on is just getting off to a hot start, not starting off a little sloppy, which I feel like happened the past couple weeks. But it's very, very promising to see what this offense is capable of when they really get clicking, which is exactly what we saw in that third drive. So I'm very hopeful watching that with Jordan Love. If we would have stopped after those two drives, I probably would have been a little bit more slightly concerned. But the third drive looked amazing, lots of great things. And then I want to touch on a few different guys who really stood out to me. The biggest one on offense, not talking about Jordan Love, is Malik Heath, who has sort of been fighting for the Packers' one of the final roster spots at the wide receiver position. Because so far, the guys who I think are pretty much locks for the roster: Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Samori Toure, most likely, except he hasn't really. I didn't notice him do too much tonight besides return some kicks. I don't even know if he caught a pass tonight. If I take a look here at the stats, Samori Toure, he had 0 catches. So I still think Toure is going to make the roster because of his experience here. He is one of those guys entering year 2. So him, Dontavian Wicks, and then it looks to me like Malik Heath is going to be the Packers' 6th receiver, because if you watch tonight, you saw what he can do. He's a big-bodied, physical, fast receiver. His first catch, caught it, plants his foot, runs, super physical, very hard to take down, and he's willing to go up and sacrifice himself, go up there, make those tough catches when guys and defenders are flying at him. He somehow holds onto the ball. So he was the leading receiver on the Packers, 5 receptions for 75 yards. Absolute beast. We saw what he can do in the blocking game last week, and so it looks to me like tonight definitely secured him a roster spot. Another guy on the offense, Emmanuel Wilson, who had that amazing touchdown run last week. Today, he led the Packers in carries, 15 carries, 63 yards, 4.2 yards per carry. Looks really nice. I still wonder if the Packers will, when it comes to this third running back position, are they going to stick with Patrick Taylor? Because Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur have talked about how the third running back spot, the importance is, can you pass block and can you be an asset on special teams? And I haven't seen much of Emmanuel Wilson's pass blocking, but I know that the Packers seemingly trust Patrick Taylor in that way. And so I personally, just based off of running back and running ability, I would go with Emmanuel Wilson, because you see his speed, his elusiveness, his agility. But I still am sort of wondering if the Packers will stick with Patrick Taylor, which that's going to be a competition we keep watching in the next week or so as these final spots get decided. Another thing on offense that was interesting was when you look at the starting offensive line, Rasheed Walker actually started at left tackle. Bakhtiari, of course, did not play, but I would have assumed that Yosh Nijman would have got the start at left tackle, but second year, 7th round pick, Rasheed Walker got the start at left tackle, and he seemed somewhat solid out there. I'll need to see the stats tomorrow about if he allowed any pressures. But for him to get a start over Josh Nijman is pretty telling. That the Packers seem to have some confidence in him entering year 2. So he pretty much now seems like a lock on the roster for me. And I even wonder if he's potentially pushing himself over Josh Nijman. We already saw Zach Tom, I think, really take over at right tackle. Played really nice tonight, even on that touchdown pass from Love to Jaden Reed. It was set up by a super nice block by Zach Tom on the right side. So interesting there at tackle. Now moving to the defensive side of the ball. So 2 guys who really stood out. Carl Brooks, this year's draft pick, I believe, from Bowling Green. He made multiple plays in the backfield. He looks like he's going to be a problem. Also, Colby Wooden, another defensive lineman pick this year in the draft. 2 guys who I think are going to really bolster this Packers defensive interior line. We saw it last week, I think, especially with Colby Wooden, a few nice plays. And tonight, both of these guys stood out. Colby Wooden, really good against the run. I've noticed a few different times where he just gets in there, throws his guy to the side, makes a tackle. Carl Brooks also making noise there. So I'm very excited about what this Packers defensive line can be. And those are solid depth pieces from what we've seen in these preseason games behind guys like Kenny Clark, TJ Sladen, and Devontae Wyatt. Now talking about Carrington Valentine. So he's been playing really, really well. Played great in the last preseason game, has been playing great at practice. And today was slightly less great. He had 2 penalties. I don't know if both were holding, both were pass interference, but he was called as he was covering his guy. And then he also allowed a few catches, allowed a touchdown pass, looked like to me. And so he wasn't as amazing as he was last week. Not to say that he can't fix this, but clearly it's tough to always be at that level. And then if we look at, I'd say the biggest performance on defense today, which maybe I should have started with on defense here. But Kingsley Enagbare, second-year player, was a 5th-round draft pick last year, had 2 sacks, a beautiful forced fumble, and he's going to be solid depth there at edge rusher for the Packers because once Rashawn Gary is back, we got Preston Smith on the other side. Of course, we have Lucas Van Ness, who hasn't made a crazy amount of really, really great plays, I would say, when it comes to this preseason. I think Kingsley Enagbare has looked better in these 2 preseason games. But that's great to see. A guy entering year 2, so many players coming into their second season take huge jumps forward. And it looks to me like Kingsley Enagbare, who goes by JJ Enagbare, it looks to me like he is going to be a problem this year. And so with the uncertainty of exactly when Rashawn Gary is coming back, it's nice that he's starting to make lots of plays. And the final one on defense before I move to kicker, which we'll end with, but Jimmy Phillips, who was brought in from SMU this offseason, he was flying around. He led the Packers in tackles today, 6 different tackles, but he just sort of caught my eye out there, his speed on the interior there as a middle linebacker. So we'll see if he can compete for one of those final spots. And then Anders Carlson, who we all know has struggled to be consistent, not only in training camp, but in last week's preseason game, missing a couple of PATs. Tonight he was perfect, 3 for 3. Made 2 of his 2 extra points, which is great. And then he made a 52-yard field goal, pretty much right down the middle. Looked like it had maybe about 10 more yards. And so I've heard, and the Packers have discussed just the belief they have in him. He has so much power in that leg, and the issue has been his consistency. He said earlier in the week that it seemed to him that maybe he was rushing his kicks, and that was why he was missing to the right. And tonight, luckily, it went well. So hopefully this continues for him. Brian Gutekunst mentioned in his press conference a couple days back, or that was yesterday, that the Packers are going to be patient with him because he is a young kicker, and they're willing to wait out some of these issues to hopefully see what they believe he can be. So hopefully we see more of this from Anders Carlson, but it's very promising to see him not have any of those accuracy issues tonight. So those are my biggest takeaways from this game. Patriots won at 21-17. The Packers now have one more game. But if you guys want to stay up to date with all things Packers, news, analysis, rumors, I cover it all on this channel throughout the week, a ton of videos. So feel free to subscribe. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.